The first time that I saw Dick Price. Well, the first time I met him was my leader, Jeff Kent. He was coming along the other side of the road as I was walking back to Southcote. And I see him with this older man who was kind of running along. And I see Jeff go to Dick and go, "It's the guy the 9 cent." So Dick, as we get closer, calls out across the road, "Oh, you're the guy the 9 cent." So I kind of realise it's Dick. So I call back going, "Maybe I sent the 9.
Welcome to Voices of Esalen. I'm Sam Stern. Today, we check in with a longtime Esalen and Big Sur community member, Neil Baldwin. Neil first came to Esalen in the early 1980s at the behest of a psychic named Jenny O'Connor. Neil would end up living at Esalen for more than 2 decades, working in a great many capacities at Esalen over the years, before he eventually settled into his own zone of genius at the Gazebo Preschool, where he held sway as a trusted and beloved park keeper and teacher for many, many years. In this chat, Neil and I discuss the Esalen of the 1980s with its profound emphasis on and many flavors of Gestalt psychology, as well as the influence of Dick Price before his untimely passing in 1985. Neil was an absolute pleasure to talk to, and after having known him for many years, it was such fun to let him write his own chapter of Esalen history.
My name is Neil Baldwin. I have lived in the Big Sur area for over 40 years and have worked at Esalen on and off for all that time. And this is going to be a little story of how I came here all those years ago. I come from Essex in England, a wee town called Leigh-on-Sea, and is famous for its Delta blues music. High school was very, very liberal. I was turned on to LSD by my headmaster. I mean, it really was a late 60s high school. You may have heard of the band Preschool. Well, they came from my high school. And 30 miles from London, so we'd go up to London to do the gigs and hang out and get back on the last train pretty much and get off the train and go straight to school. Didn't know what I was going to do. So got a kind of office job for the winter, earned a bit of money, went to Scotland, then I managed to get a job driving tractors. I was cutting all the grass, I was delivering flowers and plants, I was picking magic mushrooms. So all summer, fantastic weather, lots of great music, Bob Marley playing in London. And then the winter, I would get the money I'd saved, and I'd go to India or Afghanistan or Israel or Greece or Nepal, going overland. The first time I caught the hippie bus, $50, a whole of us squashing this old bus with Brighton on the front, and off we go. Second or third time is public transport, whatever came, boats and trains and also whatever, camels, whatever we could find. Yeah. So that was very exciting. Wow. And then I come back to England for the winter, so the summer, get my job back, carry on with the grass. I was known as the wild man of Borneo because I had 3-foot long hair, and I was so tanned, and I wore these little shorts and zipping around. So I didn't know it, but I had this whole reputation for really, really being a weirdo.
Were you?
Not really.
No.
So I got back from India in 1978. Suddenly, oh God, I'm back. It was a time they were having all the strikes. Thatcher was about to come in, and you could just, the monetarism, the thing where money is more important than people, because that's how we've been running the planet for the last 50 years, and it shows. So this was all just really beginning to come up. And I'm going, oh God, I can't handle this. Couldn't get a job back on my old park straight away. I ended up doing other jobs. I did the S training. I went to see a psychic in my hometown, and she said, "I see lots of people clapping. You're a musician?" I go, "No." She goes, "Well, next couple of weeks, a lot of people will be clapping." And so the S train, they all clap whenever you say something. Yeah. And so that turned me on to the London scene. Because to me...
Let's delve a little bit more deeply into EST, because people might not know exactly what that is.
So EST was set up by a guy called Werner Erhard. That wasn't his real name, of course. All a bit dodgy, but I think what really happened was he used to come up to Esalen and basically obviously really had a good time and had the knowledge and the ability to turn that into something bigger. And the way I see it, Esalen is the village store. Est at that time was the supermarket. So you go to these meetings in hotel rooms, very, very, very different from Esalen, definitely not laid back, very forceful, but really got people to look at their lives and look at their relationships and really see if they could change, or if not change.
The way that I see it is that EST is this outgrowth from the confrontive aspects of Gestalt and encounter that were popularized at Esalen in the mid-60s to early 70s, and then Werner Erhard comes here and he sort of corporatizes some of the elements of encounter.
Exactly. And it only just started in England. I think I did the second training there. And I got off on it. It was watching people. I love watching people. It's all about people.
Yeah.
And making fantastic friends on all different class, especially upper class. I finally had upper class friends. Not particularly set out to have upper class friends, but suddenly I know Lady Anne and Lady Olivia and all these people.
These people are looking for what in their lives? What brought them to
They're looking
S?
for a way out of the binds they're in. Especially in England, there's so many binds. I mean, England is totally bound down at the moment. It's a total mess. And it's about cutting those ties, getting yourself free, not saying sorry every time someone steps on your foot, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And did you benefit also from the S training?
Yeah, absolutely. It brought me out of myself, certainly made me way more social, made me realise a lot more of who I was. Okay. I started having people coming out to me going, "You look like the most interesting person in the room. Can I be your friend?" Well, I can ask for more than that, can you? I mean, really. It turned me into a bit of a rock star with that, because I was very much the working class kind of guy in this very middle class, upper class scene.
Oh, okay.
And so I really stood out. The fact that I was a tractor driver. These people don't know tractor drivers.
Oh, interesting.
So they really, and they want, and this was all about people wanting to know each other.
So tell me, how did this progress from?
So this progressed. So I'm doing the S training. I did a few things with it. I moved up to London to sell records to my record company. Unfortunately, the bands he wanted me to sell, I didn't really like. So I was kind of, nah. I was living in Kew Gardens in this beautiful little cottage, but it turned out that one of our roommates was an escaped bank robber. So I moved back home. Things were going weird. I'd think to myself, oh God, I haven't got my bicycle repair kit with me as I'd be cycling out, and literally, having said that, watch a nail go into my tyre. Endless coincidences, endless, not quite right stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, I want to get to the bottom of this, and I want to be able to deal with this. Plus, I want my life to be more of what I know it can be. Back to the old potential thing. Yeah. And the S definitely starts that, but it wasn't didn't really get me going. It just got me started.
Right.
So cocaine had come to London. I hate this stuff, but being around people on coke is not fun. I just wanted to get out. I didn't want to go out east. I mean, I love the east, but I'd done that.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to find out how can I get myself out of this situation and be where I really want to be. And so I set myself up a 3-month program, and I'm back in my hometown. I'm not going to go to London. I'm going to pay off my debts. I'm going to get my job back. I'm going to get a nice new wardrobe, have a good haircut, and really, really get my life, happening. And there was a great big party up in London, so I'm going to use that party and get everything together. And I also want to find an answer to all these coincidences, and I want to meet the Time Lords. And the Time Lords are a Doctor Who, if you've heard of the British thing. They're these time wizards who zip around the universe and do their thing, and I wanted to meet them because I knew they were there. I knew they were out there. There were too many weird things happening. Not necessarily the Doctor Who style Time Lords, but some kind of, shall we say, cosmic consciousness.
Okay.
I knew it was out there, and so I was going to get all this done by the time I got to this party. I was kind of joking. I wasn't that serious. But so fair enough, I go to the party, huge great hall, about 300 people, most of which I knew. And up comes my old girlfriend Hazel, who just changed her name to Rachel because she was getting to her Jewish roots. You go, girl. And she goes, Neil, great to see you. Oh, I just did this workshop with the Time Lords. Oh, I just did this workshop. I'm like, yeah, like what? I go. And she goes, yeah. Oh, yeah, you got to do it. I go, yes. So that was so real. So I found out about the workshop, got the phone number off her. It was in a little apartment in Fulham, but the person who had it was getting a free workshop to lend it. Beautiful, a garden smaller than this little room that had been turned into 3 little spaces that you could fit about 30 people in. So the workshop starts in the morning. It's this, we all kind of pile into the big living room. We're all sitting around, maybe 20 of us. The woman who's doing the channeling, that's what this is. It's a woman who has a piece of pad of paper and a pen in her hand, and she's going to do automatic handwriting, and she's going to be channeling the 9 extraterrestrial beings that emanate from Sirius Beta. Sirius Beta, incidentally, is they go round with Sirius A. They don't go. They go around on a common point. Sirius A is just a great big white planet, star. Sirius B is a little white dwarf where 1 cubic inch weighs I don't know how many tons, and apparently it's where the cosmic consciousnesses hang out in our particular area of the galaxy. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't think anybody's been up to there and found out either. So let's go for it. So here I am. In the morning, we did a few Gestalt games. In the afternoon, she gets out the handwriting. So we put the pad and we start doing the question answer. One person goes, they've got some family questions, out come the answers. Whoa, seems great. Next person goes, financial questions, great. I better get going while they're hot. So my first question, I've been offered a job counselling unemployed kids. Very worthy, but I kind of needed the counselling myself. So I said, extraterrestrials, should I do this job? No, we hope not, they said. Your friend Ian should do it. Oh, you know Ian? So I told Ian about it, and he ended up doing it for a couple of years. So my next question is, well, what should I do? The great question. Back comes the answer, go to Esalen as a work scholar.
That is wild.
So it was wild. It got wilder because it turned out this woman was from my hometown. Her name's Jenny O'Connor. She was married to Terry O'Connor, the local narc, the police officer, where we used to go to the court when our mate Pete got busted for a little bit of hash. We'd all go in our school blazers and do the power salute in the gallery, while Terry O'Connor's down there busting poor old Pete, and the judge was the headmaster's wife. So it was like, and she got broken up with him years ago, and got into it. She had a psychic experience and ended up at Esalen, where the 9 were running Esalen. Not very well, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, it's funny that you're telling this whole story because I knew about this Jenny and the 9 story for a long time. It's one of the more like infamous chapters of Esalen history, which the idea being that Dick Price had a lot of faith in this psychic named Jenny O'Connor, a person who communicated with 9 extraterrestrial individuals.
Yeah, he actually, it turned out Jenny told me that he sent Jenny out with Trevor and Russell. We mustn't forget her sidekicks. And Trevor did he would write everything down. He was a Hansard parliamentary stenographer. I mean, he really knew his stuff.
Wow. So
it all got written, everything that they ever did got written down. And Russell was the partner, basically, the logistics man. And he'd sent them out specifically to look for people who were atypical of the normal Esalen audience. I think he was very tired of that.
They were on a recruiting journey?
Yeah, recruiting journey. Dick had no time for the Mill Valleyites with their pressed jeans and their bloody Madras shirts.
So Dick wanted more people.
So he wanted people, he was always into people from every extreme.
Yeah.
Dick had a huge vision. I mean, it was bigger than he knew because that stuff would come in. He was like, whoa.
So he sent Jenny back to England.
So he sent Jenny to London and maybe New York, other places.
Yeah.
Specific to bring in people that wouldn't necessarily know how to get there. That's me, unless they were using their psychic powers. So that's what that was.
So what did
about.
You do?
So what happened was I didn't have hardly money. So I saw Jenny again and asked them with the 9, and I said, look, I can afford the flight, but I can't afford the whole thing, the work scholar fee. And she said, oh, don't worry, Dick will give you a scholarship. And I'm like, oh, so it was all set up. I went to this great party of all the Esalen people in London, all people who've obviously been through Esalen. Yeah. And that was cool because I got to see all these cool people who were very confident, they were doing well with their lives. And I go, oh, this is the Esalen crew.
Well, I know that Will Schutz's Flying Circus went to London.
Exactly.
They went to Europe in the late 60s.
In the late 60s. So that stirred up a lot of stuff, only in very tiny areas, but when you get them all together.
So what were these areas? Was this the counterculture or was this...
No, this wasn't. This was more of people who, pretty much more of the Est kind of...
The human potential.
The human potential movement. Yeah, these people were I remember doing part of the Est training, I don't know if you ever did get to Esalen, was a woman was running Revlon in Britain. Yeah. That kind of level. That was fun for me. I'm a tractor driver, yeah. But yes, I think most of these people were running their own companies, or basically, but still keeping that Esalen buzz going.
So tell me about arriving at Esalen. What was it like when you first showed
first of all, before I got there, I would have to tell my parents what I was doing, obviously. And some of their friends were very interested, but my mum, when I would start to talk basically what we've just been talking about, she started kicking me under the table.
Would this be like 1979?
This would be 1981, January 1981. I arrived at Esalen just as Joe Blow. I'm just Neil and I'll get to know you.
Yeah.
So I turn up and nothing much. The first evening, we have the big evening where we have the introduction to the Work Scholar program and the old meat market where everybody's hanging out, checking everybody else out and all that stuff. And he was a Work Scholar, you remember that. And Obviously, the work scholars hadn't been doing their work, because Betty Dingman does her spiel, and then she goes, I'm now going to bring out my partner, Janet, who is going to have to talk to you, needs to talk to you. So out comes Janet Lederman with a more cigarette, parachute jump, baggy grey eyes. And she walks around the circle, pointing at each work scholar. You are here to have fun, but you're also here to work. So there's one thing you've got to remember. You got to do your 32. I'm going, this is not a hippie camp, you know.
Your 32 hours.
Yeah, they're having, these guys probably hanging out in the bars too much. But over the next week, that's when it got interesting, because everywhere I went, I'd see all the old staff members twitch and go, that's the guy at the 9 cent. Jenny had a meeting with the staff and told them I was coming. Told Steve Williams from New Zealand, who was heading grounds at the time, that I was going to be his best friend while we were together, which we were.
She was right.
Yep, she was right. And basically, so I was a superstar before I even knew it.
So it sounds to me like Jenny was actually able to predict she got some things right.
Oh, yes. Let's not get into how big. As far as I'm concerned, she got 100% right, because she got exactly what I wanted her to do.
Yeah, she changed your life.
She changed my life.
What was how popular was Jenny on Esalen campus?
Up and down. She was very macho. They'd have these endless boozy nights playing cards, drinking stolly up at the staff units and stuff. Or Trevor would be asleep in the middle of it all. Parliamentary practice, probably. The 9 would tell them people really outrageous stuff. You know,
like what?
Go out with him, go out with her. You know, Dick really was just looking. I think he was tired of running the place. Because it was a huge thing to run.
So it had been almost 20 years.
And it had been almost 20 years. So you'd go up in the hills a lot just running just to get away from it. And so I think the 9 were just a way of throwing it up in the air. They weren't very good when they came to be managers.
How long did they hold sway?
They were already going for some time when I got there. But yeah, they hadn't got all the power, because they made Joan Fiore the CEO, the director. She was a Gestaltist, but her kind of Gestalt was very dark. People were into the dark areas. And she naturally expected, being the director, that all her people would become extended students and stuff like that. But the rest of the place wasn't having it. So it was a complete mess. So you had all these dark people expecting suddenly they were going to be running the place, and everybody else going, no, you're way too depressing, you know.
Well, Gestalt must have been a real force at Esalen.
It was a massive force. And many different kind of facilitators. They weren't all dark. You had Jay-Z, who was just this big, lovely New York lady.
Who's Jay-Z?
Janet Zuckerman. Yeah, he's very Janet Lederman, who everybody was terrified of her.
She also had a Gestalt.
Practice? She was Fritz Perls's assistant, and so you had that whole Perlsy and think, oh yeah, these people were serious Gestaltists, but they each had their different angles. And Dick his was completely different.
What was Dick's angle?
His was, I'll tell you about my first process with Dick. So I've been there a couple of weeks. We had him every Wednesday afternoon, the group. So I got, again, like the 9, I've got to get some of this. So a couple of people work on their mum or whatever. I come up and I just sit there. Dick goes, okay, how you feeling? And what colour? He's picking the lint off the carpet.
He said, what colour?
Yeah, what colour do you feel? I mean, just these very simple little questions, just to get you moving along. He's not wanting you to be anything. He's just, because some of the Gestaltists do, they want to push you. We won't go there. So he's totally open, and I'm kind of there. And what colour? I'm kind of blue. What kind of blue? Underwater blue. Well, how do you feel? I feel wonderful. I'm a dolphin. And just kind of, just I was the happiest guy on earth, because I got to Esalen. I was where I wanted to be. I'm surrounded by other people. I'm meeting new friends, and so I was just the happiest person. And after that, he goes, "You feel complete?" I go, "Yeah." So it was just it wasn't about me working on some big issue. Dick didn't have that kind of force.
Was Dick interested to have met you in terms of you being the person that Jenny had found?
Well, the first time I met him, which was before the process, it was my leader, Jeff Kent. He was coming along the other side of the road as I was walking back to Southcote. I'd already crossed the road to go up the hill. I was just about to go up the hill. And I see him with this older man who was kind of running along. And Dick had been away for the first few days, so I hadn't seen him. And I see Jeff basically go to Dick and go, "That's the guy the 9 cent." So Dick, as we get closer, calls out across the road, "Oh, you're the guy the 9 cent." So I realise it's Dick. So I call back going, "Maybe I sent the 9." he was obviously a very integral part of me coming. It wasn't just the 9, it was Dick Price,
Dick,
really,
yeah.
really Dick.
Right, so did you feel gratitude?
So I felt gratitude, and for a while I felt maybe I should become a leader, or maybe I have a purpose here. What my actual purpose turned out to be was basically one of his son's very best mates. Because David's coming to visit me at Christmas in England, this year or so. Because David Price, he's one of my closest friends.
Are you all about the same age?
No, he's quite a bit younger than me. He was like a very bedraggled younger brother that I never had. I had two when I first got to Western. He hadn't quite come into himself.
So when you showed up there in 81, how old are you?
I was 27, Saturn return.
Okay.
He was probably about 15, 16. Yeah. He hadn't quite gotten his feet. We both fell in love with this same gorgeous blonde girl I'm still very good friends with. So that, I think, was the purpose of me coming, was to be David's mate.
Tell me about Dick on his presence on the Esalen campus. How integral was he? In what ways?
He wasn't there much. He was there, but he didn't want. Everybody wanted a piece of him, and so he wasn't. I'd do the T-shirts at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, because this was set in the little office, pinning them up. The Esalen T-shirts, the merch, the merch. And he would come in. We had a great big book then. There was no computers. This great big book, and he would come in then to do his paperwork, because no one would grab him. It was just, often it'd be an empty office. And he was always bringing people in. I mean, the number of people Dick brought in as guests, endlessly. And it didn't matter who you were. I was just one of many. And he would come and do this. He'd give me these scribbly little notes. Saying, can you deal with this tomorrow? And I go, yeah, sure. Terrible handwriting, And he'd talk about the bookshop. And he'd say, all this? Throw it out the window. Throw it off the cliff. Steal it. People should not come to Esalen to buy T-shirts and read books. He was hardcore. Now, he loved his books. But when it came to Esalen, now it's like the same with these devices. I always make myself bigger and make a bit of noise when I go into the lodge. They're all on the devices. Come on, wake up.
Well, what was the lodge like in the
1980s? It was a scene. It was either very, very quiet or really happening. Crowded tables, not just the workshop, so much staff, always something happening.
Music?
Drama, music, the latest workshop, whatever it was. It was serious. It was a 9-ring circus, basically.
It seems like that was, you think about certain places and you're like, if you missed the 1960s, then you missed it all. But it seems to me that Esalen was crazy, must have been crazy vibrant in there.
It kept just very vibrant, very juicy.
Very international?
Very international, totally international. You didn't know who was coming. People had been saving for years to come. People, just kind of fell into it. People would come for a weekend and not leave for 10 years. A lot of them are doing it, they're getting paid for the credits. That was a brilliant thing of doing it. So you have all these nurses coming, they've got to do their CEUs.
Yeah.
So it's paid for by their hospital or whatever. Yeah, let's go to Esalen and do a week of healing training there. So that really gave it a nice solid energy of people not coming to freak out, but people really furthering the potential of their careers, but in a good environment.
What were kind of the subjects that people were checking out, in the workshops, and what was the subject of your Work Scholar Month?
Well, the Work Scholar Month was potpourri. It was everything. We were abseiling down the cliff below the big house. We're doing the blindfolded thing on the beach. We had the massage month weekend with the Jew hands. Dean and Andrea had given some intro to massage. That was a whole weekend.
Yeah.
And we had on the last week the Naked Parade.
What's that?
The Naked Parade, I know it's very important in the last week, but we knew about it right from the start. Everybody go into Watts or Maslow, take all their clothes off. There'll be a little platform put in, and one by one, and we're all naked, we would stand up in front of the rest of the group, and the rest of the group gets to say anything they want to about your body. And so the whole month is like people, not everybody came. So we're finally all in there. We all get up naked one by one. Nobody said anything negative. We all loved each other. We've been hanging out for a month. It was all positive. It was all really looking at ourselves from the beautiful point of view. We could be negative if we wanted to, but we kind of done that already. I mean, after my process with Dick, I went back to the evening process, and half the group wants to hang me because I wasted a session with Dick. I became a dolphin. You're supposed to be working on your mother or your dead whatever. You can't. That's frivolous. And the other half supported me, going, "No, Neil's working on what he's working for. He's as happy as a dolphin." So that's what you.
This is interesting because you told me that there were different schools of Gestalt at Esalen, and so you identified Dick has he's the reflector, right?
Yes,
the
definitely
kinder,
reflector. Yeah.
Gentler.
Janet was the you're so shit scared that you're going to break kind of thing.
So what would be an example of like what would go down in the Janet Gestalt?
Someone would very nervously start to work, But because she really was there for the person, I got her straight away. I knew that there's much more to this woman than we're just seeing. And so there was a very big heart behind what appeared to be a very small, very, not actually hostile, but very tough, very New York kind of environment. Because she was very tough. The very first group I did with her, work scholar group, our very first session was up at the far end, and we all sat in a huge circle. I mean, she was there already. She'd come in a little bit early. So she's sitting there just totally calm. And then one by one we all gather, we all sit in a circle. And then one by one she's looking at each person, one by one in the eye. And I'm directly opposite her, so I'm about halfway. So by the time she's about 5 people off me, I'm about to burst into hysterics. I think this is so silly. To me it's a joke, it's like, because everybody's shit scared. They're all kind of, you can feel the nervousness. And so she gets to me, she looks straight at me, and she winks. I go, oh, gotcha. And she got me too. So so once a lot of these people, because they're scary roles, they're helping you really go deep into your life, and not in a quiet little room with a nice place to lay on, but in a forum with people looking.
A public setting.
Yeah, and you're on the hot seat. And so again, Jay-Z there was the Dorothy, who modelled herself on Chris Price, and then developed her own technique. You see them people come in.
How do you think that Gestalt, this emphasis on Gestalt, influenced Esalen of those days?
I think there was a certain element of honesty, of clarity. There's always going to be stuff. No matter how much Gestalt they're going to get, they're still going to be narcissists. They're still going to be full of their own shit. There's always people it doesn't mean. But overall, and so many people coming in, that very much this was about sharing. On a really big level.
So how did your Esalen life kind of evolve as you stayed here? What did you end up working in?
Let's see, I started working, they put me in the kitchen and grounds my first month, because the grounds, they all want to know who I was. So I got a good taste of grounds, and also the kitchen, which is a very interesting place. I don't know the kitchen down there at all, but the old kitchen was quite the dance. Then I wanted to run the farm. I wanted to really learn organic farming. Started on the farm. I think there's still one lemon tree out there that I planted, and maybe an apple tree. Really enjoyed that. Then it was time to leave. Visa was running out. But I'd been promised by the head of the farm, Clay, that I could be the supervisor when I came back. When in the 6 months I was away, he left. Steve Beck got the job. Steve Beck didn't really know me. He wasn't going to give me the job. Understandably, he gave it to a woman. So I didn't get that job. So I ended up working in the office for a year and a half. So I came back and did that. And that was good because I learned I could work in an office, I could communicate. It was great helping out people. Seminarians coming in who really don't know what they're. Some of them are understandably completely lost, and it's great to kind of give them a little guidance. And then they see you next. Oh, thank you, whoever it was. So the office was good, but it clearly wasn't really that. It was also a way of being at Esalen. Janet Lederman used to come into the office, as she would be. She'd see me, and she knew I'd been a park keeper. And she would see me and she'd point at me and go, I want you in Gazebo. And I'd do the sign of the cross at her and get out of her. And then...
Gazebo being the school.
Gazebo being the school that she set up.
And when was that school started?
It was started in 1977. Dick Price had a kid. Before then, kids weren't particularly welcome at Esalen. Brita had to hide ivy under her peasant skirts when she was a waitress. But then suddenly Dick had a kid. Woohoo! And Janet was there already. She taught 11-year-olds in the projects in East LA, so she really knew how to deal with tough situations. And she also was Fritz Pels's assistant, so she had a really good sense of how all that stuff worked.
Right. So
she sets the school up, brings in the boat and brings in the giant wine barrel. Dick is just going, what is she doing? And Dick and Betty kind of shared the office. So Betty, being Janet's partner, will go, I don't know what she's doing, Dick. She's just doing it.
I mean, one thing that's interesting about that whole story is that Janet, as far as I understand it, wanted to set up a school that was modeled around the principles of Gestalt.
Exactly.
But for children.
Yeah, for children, keeping it simple and straight. Reflect, use your words, eye contact. Don't hurry the child. Give them the room they need to. Give them space. And as a park keeper, I was very appropriate because park keeping is kind of, you do that. I've been in an English park. These are little parks. I don't want to go huge wild parks, but there's little urban parks where there might be some tennis courts. There might be a field for the 5-year-olds. And my job was simply to make sure it's safe. It wasn't to educate the children. It wasn't to be with them in any special way, but just to oversee them. And that's very much what Gazebo is about, partly. So, and it's the Gestaltists never got that. They were all full of, the teaching. But I'm going, it's called preschool. I mean, Come On Unify were even worse on that one. I mean, it's called preschool, guys. Drop the curriculum. Let them create their own curriculum. They know better than you, tell me. Whereas the park keeper, I'm being strict when a boundary is crossed.
Yeah.
But until that boundary is crossed, I don't really exist in some way. Well, I do, but
yeah.
Whereas they were much more getting more involved and more the language. And some of them are absolutely brilliant. Anne Seifert, her language, I was so jealous. You sit with a kid and she just... everything. I mean, you just use a few words, and this kid will be telling you everything that she needed to know, or the kid needed to know.
Yeah,
it was amazing. I don't have that ability particularly, and that's fine because I have a different role. My role is the overseer. I was there for 22, I think, years.
When you were working at the school, did you live at Esalen?
Yes, I lived in first of all in all of the rooms in the farmhouse, then the tea house, and then both the yurts. And I spent 10 years in the lower yurt of the 2 gazebo yurts, which was the longest I've lived anywhere apart from my home. My home when I grew up. But I think I've just passed that and up at Kenny Laverne's property now. I've been there over 10 years, so I like doing that. It's a real sense of continuity, and I always knew that I'd be leaving Esalen at some point. It wasn't a paradise. I was going to be there forever. There was always something was going to happen that I'd leave.
Tell me about some of the ways that Esalen changed you during that time, during that 22-year stretch from the mid-'80s.
Yeah, let's see. Well, it made me more confident in obvious ways. I can remember I'm always looking for a girlfriend. But my karma is to be single, I think. And I can remember doing it like a month where every time I was attracted to a woman, I would do something about that. Not sleazy, but just, be honest. And I didn't get any girlfriends out of it, but I really got some great responses, and really helped me build my confidence. Stuff like that, just making more. So I wasn't definitely not feeling victim, but feeling much more I'm running this show.
Yes,
and really enjoying that. Just meeting so many people. So many different
the friendships.
People. Even now, just the parents of the kids I used to look at for the workshop programs, they're still coming through and telling me about their 23-year-old daughter or their 30-year-old daughter. So just that level of both Big Sur community, the school allowed me to really enter, and as well as actually a much bigger community out there too. So really love the school for that. Love my kayak. Nothing like finishing work at 4:30. Grabbing my paddle, running down to the beach where I had the kayak stashed away up the canyon, jumping into the kayak and going out and hanging out with a bunch of whales for the rest of the evening.
Wow.
I mean, it couldn't be any better. The experience I had out there, just mind-blowing. I mean, one New Year's morning out there and 40 Risso's dolphins appear and they're all playing and going crazy and whacking each other. That's what they do. They're the clowns of the ocean. And they all disappear. There's just me paddling along, and then suddenly about 50 yards ahead of me, they all appear like a huge line in front of me, like they're pulling me along, and I actually felt like Triton or Neptune. I actually felt like I was a god with these 50 incredible animals just playing, just playing games. It was that kind of experience. I don't know anywhere else I could have got that.
Tell me more about Dick Price, your reflections on him as an individual. And
the last memory I have of Dick is being around at his house with me, my dad, who was here for a month, and David, just hanging out. David invited us around just to be friends. And Jenny had just finally got a video. Dick didn't want a video, but finally Jenny, who's 6 years old, still she wants a video. Videos had just come in, so we were watching The Never-Ending Story. And I just thought that was so appropriate. And that was the last time I saw Dick. But I went back to England and he died in the fire while I was away. On some levels, he didn't know what he was doing. And that's great. That he really, we don't know what we're doing. There was no plan here. They just came down to do, him and Michael, to do a weekend workshop with Alan Watts or whatever, and Spiegelberg. It wasn't about this huge thing. But of course, they caught the wave. 62, you're hitting a huge wave coming. Hopefully we'll get another one in about 10 years. We need it so bad. We get a real level of enlightenment across the board. Right. And the 60s was just a beginning. I was playing Revolver by the Beatles yesterday. And you listen to that music, my God, tomorrow always knows. It's like, this is serious cosmic stuff. So there's going to be another wave of that. Esalen caught that wave perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without even meaning to.
But absolutely not meaning to. On every level. Location, philosophy.
Exactly. I was thinking about that too. Location.
Sexuality, hot tubs, body stuff.
Yeah.
Every single level. Because, the hippies weren't that healthy necessarily, but Esalen was.
Did you ever take the work of Paula Shaw?
I did, and I deliberately set myself up, because I can talk, obviously. Here I am babbling away here. So it wasn't really about getting more confidence there. I just wanted to be totally confident on being on stage.
I think about her where actually she did S.
I'm good friends. She was an S trainer.
She was an S trainer.
Yeah, she was an S trainer.
So now I can see, now that I know a little bit more about S, I watched a documentary the other night, I can see the connection between Paula Shaw's Max and the
definitely. And it's really the Mastery. She just changed the name because she didn't have the copyright on it. But it used to start off as the Mastery.
Oh, it was called the Mastery.
Yeah, and she was one of the people involved in it. Then she wanted to do her own thing. So just changed it. It's like deep tissue.
Sure.
But she was much more very involved in creating it. I love Paula. I haven't seen her for a little while, but I saw her I think about 3 years ago. So I deliberately don't have a monologue or a poem or whatever. I want to be gunned down. So I end up, this is the first evening where I stand on stage and I've got nothing to say. So she is just hurling stuff at me. And it's like a nightmare. It's like a dream where you're naked on stage and people are throwing verbal barbs at you.
But you wanted this.
But I wanted it. And she goes on like that, and eventually they're just hitting the floor. I mean, they're obviously not real, but and then she finally goes, and you've got no friends at all. And Carol Renee at the back goes, I'm his friend. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, CR.
She was just trying to crack you. Huh?
Exactly. And after that, I can stand on any stage. I actually did some of the reviews that we have, these great reviews. I can stand on the stage.
I've seen you in the Esalen archives. For sure. I mean, you just always pop up.
Exactly. And so I just got it.
No, it's something that's really interesting that comes out of doing that. I've done that work as well. And I think that I came out of it also with a similar thing. Like I can be in front of people at any time. Yeah. Because I've been seen. I've been not shamed, but I've had my vulnerability and my shame on display.
You've had it on display
in front of people and just exposed some really embarrassing kind of like issues that I'm working on in that group. And so now I feel like what's the word? I've been inoculated against embarrassment.
And initiated too.
Initiated.
It's definitely an initiation. I can remember being back in my hometown in the late 70s and having to go around and knock on the door of my friends and hanging out with them an hour or two because I was just desperately lonely. And something about walking on these pavements, the pubs weren't quite open yet. And there was this incredible loneliness. And then coming to here, and the opposite, the opposite, it could even be negative, where sometimes I just really want to be on my own here. But over at Gazebo, we're in our own little world. Just the real fluidity of community, especially one here where you had such a huge circle of people, not just living here, not just living in Big Sur, but living on the whole planet, who will be coming through regularly. So you regularly see the old faces coming through, and all the different stories and the different bits. And I have friends. One friend was a CIA agent, and he'd be telling us what he was up to all around the world when he'd come through. You're not really going to learn that in the newspapers. All these people who had some serious roles in life. My friend Robert, who ran the Russian-Soviet exchange program, he was a commander in the Navy. He spoke fluent Russian. He was the interpreter when Khrushchev was banging on the table with the shoe.
He was there.
He was the interpreter. So people at really high level, but they're not high. They're just sitting at the table with me or hanging out. Right. I mean, that to me is very important. It's a great leveler. But then it was just across the board. It may not be the workshop where you got it. It may be down the bar chatting to somebody, or just getting a massage and suddenly your body is in the right place and you're living again. I mean, there's so many different ways that people come here and start living again, and then leaving and taking that with them.
Thanks so much for listening to Voices of Esalen. Today's show was produced in conjunction with Shira Levine. Our theme music is by Nico Holloman. Esalen Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing human potential and promoting positive social change. Your support helps us to continue to offer transformative programs and retreats that promote personal growth and collective well-being. To learn more about Esalen and how you can support our mission, visit our website at esalen.org.